Okay, it's the final part. The impact crater. Awesome. We're finally doing it. Took 2 years. 2 freaking years. But we're finally at the end of this commentary slash let's play slash whatever the hell you want to call it. Oh, it's like I feel so happy now. I mean, it's not over yet, but still got like 20-ish minutes to go. Now, there's like one scan. I scanned an enemy, which like these little small tadpole-looking things, and I also scanned the red phazon. Red phazon is so potent that this is the only time where it ever appears in this series. Well, until maybe Prime 4, who knows? But yeah, red phazon's basically like it's just more potent phazon, basically to give a hazard for like the final section because they didn't want to. I guess they didn't want to reuse lava because it didn't make sense here. But then they realized, ah, shit, we already gave him the phazon suit, so let's just make up on the spot red phazon. There we go. It's even more potent. Functionally, though, it's just the same as blue phazon as far as I'm aware. I don't know if it sucks away your health quite as fast. I haven't really been in it long enough to really test that out. But oh well. Also, a new enemy is Fission Metroids. Fission Metroids are incredibly annoying because you don't fight them like you do normal Metroids, where you just use ice, where the optimal way is to fight them with the ice beam, and then fire a missile at them to break them apart. With Fission Metroids, I haven't really labbed them out enough, and I haven't read their scan log in a while. But basically, if I recall correctly, if you use a beam against them, they will multiply into and divide into two different Metroids. One has a weakness to one beam and one has another weakness to another beam, or it's immune to one beam. I don't quite remember how it works, but I'm going to give you the optimal strategy to killing them. Simply just use power bombs. Wait for them to come to you. Drop a power bomb. Move on. Just don't stay too long in this area. They spawn infinitely. So yeah, don't worry about taking care of all of them. Just like take care of any that are nearby you or that you hear produce that shriek that indicates they're about to just charge at you. And yeah, it's not a hard section at all. It really is just a path to get to the boss because they don't want it to just be suddenly boss arena, I guess. So now we are at Metroid Prime, and depending on which version of the game you're playing, it changes the backstory to this boss. In this version of the game, the original, I believe it would be that the space pirates came across a Metroid got infected with phazon, and too much phazon, and it eventually just started to become like this. And it eventually developed a outer shell casing, and it also started absorbing some of the space pirates' weapons, which is why when you see in the boss fight, it has a missile launcher and projectile beam, a tractor beam, laser beams of different varieties based on your beam weapons. God damn it. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I really hate that there's a phone in this room. It doesn't even work, really. I think the battery's dead or something in it. Anyways, as I was saying, so that's one explanation for the Metroid Prime that we see here, having all these weapons. Now, the canon explanation, the one that they changed it in, like, I think PAL onwards, or maybe Player's Choice onwards, I don't really quite remember, is basically that Metroid Prime, basically the sequence of events was meteor comes down, it happens to fall on top of a Metroid becomes Metroid Prime, end of story. Not really too much of an explanation about how it got these weapons, but you can just argue, whatever, sci-fi. So, like, the second one makes more sense, given that it's supposed to be an impregnable piece of ancient technology that's not supposed to be broken through by anything, to sort of contain the phazon, or the poison, as the Chozo call it. This boss fight's also pretty simple. He's pretty much color-coded with what beam you're supposed to use. This is also the boss fight where you really get to make usage out of all your beam upgrades, though, except, of course, for the flamethrower, because the flamethrower is very useless. And even, like, the... Fuck, I forget what it's called. The Wave Buster, there we go. Had to think Ghostbusters for a second. Even the Wave Buster, I would say, is kind of not... Okay, well, it's useful when it's on... when it glows purple, because otherwise you're not doing shit with that beam. See, there's the tractor beam. Yeah, just basically get mileage out of all of your beam power-ups and missile combos. And this boss should go down in pretty much no time flat. It's not a hard boss. It's really just like this and the second phase are really easy bosses, I would say. And because of the piss poor range, and because of like the piss poor firing rate of the ice beam, I would recommend using the ice spreader. This is like the one instance where I would definitely recommend using the ice spreader for ice beam, if you absolutely have to use it. You can also hide in the alcove to avoid taking some damage, but honestly, when you're playing on normal mode and you have this many energy tanks, this boss really shouldn't give you any challenge. And that's pretty much the boss fight in a nutshell, really. So let's talk a little bit about, I guess, Metroid Prime 4. I'm kind of curious if they're going to bring back Red Phazon. Or Phazon at all, for that matter. I am curious. I would kind of prefer it if they didn't. I'd kind of rather it be kept to its own separate thing. You know, like for the main trilogy of Prime games. I'm also just hoping that Prime 4 is good. Because one of the things that scares me about it is that there isn't any... There's pretty much nobody like... The people who made this game, and even Prime 2, and even on Prime 3, I think, no longer work for Retro Studios. So that makes me a little bit worried when they say, oh yeah, we're bringing on Retro Studios because the build we had was not meeting our quality standards. But I'm still wondering, is it going to meet this quality of standards anyways with Retro Studios at the helm? Because none of the people that made this game special, or made the other two games special, are there anymore. Like, over time, as these games got made, Metroid Primes 1, 2, and 3, more and more people... More and more of the original designers and programmers and such started leaving the company over time. So, like, the people who made... By the time you got to Prime 3, like, most of the original staff that made the first Prime game were pretty much gone by that point. So, I'm really... I'm not sure how I would describe myself for Prime 4. I'm cautiously optimistic, I guess, would be a way to describe it, but I don't think that's quite accurate. Because I think I'm a little bit uncertain. I'm very shaky on what they're going to do. Additionally, I want them to kind of also go into like a bit of a new direction. I don't know what that means exactly. Because fuck, I don't know half of the shit I want most of the time until it comes up right in front of my face. Until it appears like right before me. But it's like... I don't want them to play it as safe as they did with Samus Returns. I have mentioned it before in this commentary, but I think Samus Returns played it way too safe for its own good. And I'm hoping Prime 4 doesn't follow suit, because I want another Metroid game, but I want a Metroid game that feels fresh and different. I don't really want it to retread like old ground. And granted, Samus Returns was basically a remake, but I felt like it was trying to rip too much nostalgia from Super Metroid and, I guess, not quite Metroid Fusion. It was trying to rip... Well, actually, it was mostly just ripping Super Metroid. Like, a lot of remixes were a lot of themes in the game and music tracks were ripped straight out of Super Metroid rather than, like, remixing something from Metroid 2. So it was just like, okay... And then it also had like a almost Prime-esque style boss at one point. It was just like, eh. Like it played it too safe, honestly. So I'm hoping that they go guns blazing with the next game. And with that, we are now fighting the Metroid Prime core. And we have all 100% of the logbook scans. So we did it. We're done. All that's left to do is kick this fucker's ass and we're good. Gotta drop that F-bomb to make sure Kappa doesn't get on my ass. So this boss fight, there's really nothing to it. I think like there's that, like obviously the boss itself is a walking hitbox, which is still stupid, but yeah. The only other gimmick that this boss has is that it disappears and you have to track it with a different visor. Apart from that, that's about it really. And with this we also get the first introduction of Hyper Mode. Which is something that they won't bring back until Prime 3 and really expand upon it. But basically you get the Phazon beam in this game, which is basically a rapid fire beam that you pump into Metroid Prime's core and kill it. It's the only weapon that's effective against it. None of your other weapons will work. So take aim and fire. And pretty much rinse repeat this process about 3-4 times ish. And apart from like he also spawns Metroids as well after spawning a pool of Phazon that you can use. Also the Phazon I guess I should finish my thought first. Other than that, he has the shockwave move, and that's really about it. That's all he can do to hurt you. This fight's a joke. Now then, the Phazon beam is actually something that if you look at in your inventory menu, you will actually find that you have it, and it describes step in a pool of pure Phazon, and you'll be able to use the Phazon beam. So it's really not sure what exactly that's supposed to mean until you really get to this boss fight and you get to use it. Up until that point, you really don't have any way of knowing that, oh, that's what I have to do to activate it. Does feel like it's a little bit of a waste. I mean, it's kind of cool, I guess. But it's a weapon you only get to use in this boss fight and nowhere else. So it just kind of just kind of makes it kind of seem eh. And there we go. Also the RNG on this boss fight can be a bit of a pain because there's times where you can like spend like good couple minutes without spawning a single pool. And I'm not editing this boss fight out. So yeah, i.e. I'm hinting at that's kind of what happens here. So yeah, there's really not much else to say about this boss. This boss is really more of a test of patience than any of your other skills in this game. I mean, Metroid Prime, his first phase at least used like required you to use like your beam upgrades and different beams and swap between them. Kind of like sort of a skill check of like this stuff. No, it's not really a skill check. It's basically just stuff you've been doing for the past couple hours of game time anyways. And that's it. The boss is done. What are the last 7-ish minutes for? Mostly credits and final cutscene. And the after credits cutscene. So I don't know if it was intentional or not, given that Fusion came out around the same time as this game. But the core of Metroid Prime looks an awful lot like a Core X from Fusion. But anyways, in its last attempt to, I guess, hold on to life, it tries to absorb Samus or whatever. That fails. The Phazon suit gets ripped off, and that's it. Surprisingly, there's no like countdown as is normal for Metroid games, especially when something is blowing up. And I really do wonder if that was if they intended for there to be a countdown, but they just ran out of time to implement it. Because it seems perfectly poised for a countdown and escape sequence, as is Metroid tradition. And granted, we kind of had one at the beginning, but damn it, I wanted another one. This game really is this game really was trying to channel Super Metroid in a 3D environment, sans the ice section, of course. But so it leads me to believe that they did intend for a final escape sequence at the very end. And there is actually a kind of breaking away from Metroid tradition. There isn't an ending where you get to see Samus in her Zero Suit or sports bra or space bikini. It kind of changes depending on the game. But, which is a little odd, but oh well. This is also one of my least favorite designs of Samus. I guess my least favorite would probably be Prime 2's, because that one just looks weird. Mostly because, like, I think it's just kind of the graphics have aged a bit, and she looks really much older. And it's just kind of, I don't know, I just kind of always imagined Samus to be someone in her, I guess, late 20s, early 30s, I guess? I don't know. She looks a bit older than that. I mean, if they're trying to go the battle-hardened route, then it makes sense. But my favorite design, actually, of Samus in the entire series would actually probably be Prime Hunter's design, because I think it's kind of a mixture of this design and Prime 2's, and I actually really like it. For, like, all 10 seconds you get to see of it in that game. But yeah, that's it for Metroid Prime. It's a very good game, and I think it's stood the test of time, especially graphics-wise. I mean, in close-up shots of Samus's armor, you can sort of see like the pixelation on the lines of her armor, and some of the textures have kind of don't look quite as good in some places. But it's still a game that holds the test of time. It's also a bitch to emulate if you don't have good hardware, which I do now, so I can play this game on my PC at 1080p resolution. Now I'm just waiting for that freaking high quality HD texture pack for somebody to make. And I can also have it at widescreen support and still use the GameCube controller, which is my preferred way of playing this game. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I am so happy it's done. Metroid Prime is done. And I finally have that weight off my chest. God damn. After such a long hiatus, we're back. Now, if only people will watch the freaking videos. I wonder if I gotta do like some ultra clickbait in order to get the attention of subscribers again. Not to say like they need it or anything like that. It's just like, I imagine my videos get drowned out pretty easily in subscription feeds because I didn't upload very frequently, so YouTube's now holding it against me. Oops. Taking a hiatus, so much has changed on YouTube. So much. And I got at least a couple of views like every upload. Sometimes. Kind of depended. But yeah, the hiatus really hurt my channel. But I'm hoping to change that for this year and years following. So, in any case, we did time for our final tally. Though we already know 100% items, 100% logbook, except nothing less. I did it. My 100% run of Metroid Prime for this channel and commentary is complete. And at about 4 hours 39 minutes game time, though I imagine that timer's a bit inaccurate. But sequel bait. The tradition of the Metroid Prime series is the 100% ending gives you Prime sequel bait material. And this one hints at the creation of Dark Samus, who will be one of our antagonists for Prime 2 and our main antagonist for Prime 3. Spoopy. Too spoopy for me. So anyways, that's pretty much it. This is the finale. And I hope to see you guys for whatever else I have planned. Have a good night.